Okay, we're going to try this again. Sound on this time, or microphone on. I do not know how it got turned off, so there we go. But, okay, we're going to spend a little time here in the next few days reviewing solving equations. In other words, which is which. You guys have learned so many different equations and how to solve them and what to do with them this year. The problem is if I throw them all at you at once, do you know what to do? So today we're going to start with a little review of quadratics. And quadratics, remember, you have to have ax squared plus bx plus c. You may not have all three of those pieces, but you do need to have the x squared component or it's no longer a quadratic. Okay, so there's 5 scenarios we're going to look at here. The first one, you don't have a b value. So if you don't have a b value, there's only one of the terms that has an x. Okay, and so if that's the case, what we want to do is get x alone. Okay, so my 16x squared equals 72. I'm going to divide by 16. And x squared is going to be 72 over 16. I'm going to leave that as is for now. The second thing we're going to do is if you want to get x, you have to undo squaring. And how do we undo squaring? Yes, square root both sides. Okay, so I take the square root here and I take the square root here. So that's going to leave me an x on the left side. Remember, you can have a positive or negative number in there, so we do the plus or minus. Square root of 72 I'm going to leave alone for a second because I don't know that right off the top of my head, but square root of 16 is 4. Okay, and since I didn't know square root of 17 off the top of my head, let's look at our perfect squares. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, etc. If I look at those, the biggest one that goes into 72 is 36, because this is the square root of 36 times the square root of 2. And so I am going to revise this and make this 6 root 2 on the top and 4 on the bottom. Now at this point I'm correct, but you're not going to find this answer on SAT. ACT, why? Yes, because it's not reduced. And so to reduce it, whoops, and I left off the plus and minus, sorry. So when we reduce it, remember the 2 is inside. That's not going to work with anything, but I'm going to reduce like so. And that's going to be my final answer. Okay, so that was if you don't have a plain x, if you don't have a b value in there. Oh, sorry, and I should have said, well, no, we're good there. We did the reducing. Okay, the next example, you have an ax squared and a bx, but you don't have a c. So in other words, both terms have x's. Once you are at a point where you have more than just the x squared, so there's a plain x in there, get everything to one side. Okay, and then that of course equals 0. So for this one, it's going to be 3x squared minus 9x equals 0. Then see if there's a greatest common factor. If there is, factor it out. So on this one, we're going to take out a 3x, and that's going to leave us an x minus 3. And then solve the pieces. And how do I solve the pieces? Well, if this is true, either 3x is 0 or x minus 3 is 0. So x is 0 and x is also 3. And on here, I'm not worried about extraneous solutions yet. Okay, so again, if you have an x squared and an x, you want to get everything to one side. We're going to start same thing on here. And let me switch colors. Okay, so the problem I'm really doing here is x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. And how did I get the minus 10? I subtracted 3x from both sides and combined like terms. Now on this particular one, the a value is 1. Okay, and so that's very helpful. We're going to factor using our little x that we like, and I'm going to need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 10 and add to give me negative 3. So that's negative 5 and 2, which you guys already know. Okay, and so then either x minus 5 is 0 or x plus 2 is 0, which means x is 5 or x is negative 2. And I get that by adding 5 to both sides or subtracting 2 from both sides. Okay, so again, the same here. Solve each piece. Okay, the fourth one, very similar. This is already all on one side. Okay, so I would do step 1, same as above. Step 2, I'm going to factor with the x. But remember, on this one, when I factor this one with the x, because there's numbers here and here, I'm going to have to multiply. So 2 times negative 28, that gives me a negative 56 on top and a 1 on the bottom. What two numbers do that? Positive 8 and negative 7. Now at this point, I cannot just go, oh, x plus 8 and x minus 7. If you do that, you won't get the 2 out in the front. So remember, this is where we use the box. And you can divide and slide if you're one of the people that likes to do that. If you learned that in Algebra 1, we haven't emphasized it this year. So I don't really want to confuse you guys with that. Okay, but if I use the box, the other thing that we did do is we said, if you like, you can just write it. You can do it like this and factor by grouping like the Amazon Smile, but same idea. So in your box, what do we take out? A 2x. Here we take out a minus 7. Up and down, we take out an x. And we take out a 4. So I get 2x minus 7 times x plus 4 equals 0. And then again, solve the pieces. So our equation equals 0. Okay, 2x minus 7 is 0. X plus 4 is 0. So x is negative 4, or 2x is 7, which means x is 7 over 2. I don't care if you write it as 7 over 2, if you write 3.5, whatever makes you happy on that. Okay, and then one last one here. What if you get everything on one side and you go to do your x, no greatest common factor. You go to do your x and you say, okay, I need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 3 and add to give me negative 4. So factors of 3 are 3 and 1. 1 has to be positive, 1 has to be negative. So negative 3, positive 1 will not give me 4. Positive 3, negative 1 will not give me 4. So if you can't factor, use the quadratic formula. And fortunately for you, I am not willing to sing while I'm being recorded, so you do not have to listen to me sing. But remember that that is x is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. On here, a is 1, b is negative 4, c is negative 3. The most common mistake I see on this is when you try to plug in, you try to keep the x's with the a and b values, and remember those are just the numbers, the coefficients, the numbers in front of the x's. We are not going to plug in the x's on here. So negative b is the opposite of negative 4, plus or minus negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3, all divided by 2 times 1. So I get 4 plus or minus something divided by 2. And then, so let's see. Negative 4 squared is going to be positive 16 minus 4 times 1 times negative 3 is negative 12, which really turns into a plus, and that's 28. And this is great, but not done. Okay, so no, I can't reduce yet because my 4 can be divided by 2, but I haven't simplified my square root of 28. So let's again look at our factors. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, etc. And so my factor that's going to work there is 4. So this is going to be 4 plus or minus something over 2. So square root of 28 is the same as square root of 4 times square root of 7. I take the square root of 4, it's 2. I leave the square root of 7. And again, not done. Nothing's wrong, but I'm not done. And so some of you are saying, oh, take the 4 and divide by 2. Some of you are saying, take the 2 and divide by 2. And if you only do one of that, you are wrong. So 4 over 2 plus or minus 2 root 7 over 2 is another way to write this. 4 over 2 just gives you 2. Plus and minus square root of 7. Okay, and that's going to be our answer. And let me know if you have questions.